Gastrointestinal tract Part 1. This lecture concentrates on the initial part of the gastrointestinal tract, the mouth. The gastrointestinal tract is also called the gut. It is a muscular tube of approximately 9 meters in length, running from the mouth to the anus and includes mouth, esophagus, stomach, duodenum, small intestine, large intestine, rectum, and anus. Different parts of gastrointestinal tract has got different functions. The gastrointestinal tract helps mechanically and chemically break down food so that the food can be absorbed into the blood and utilized for the benefit of the body. GI tract produces various enzymes that helps in the chemical digestion of food. It also produces a number of hormones that play a role in regulating digestion, appetite, and satiety. As I said before, different parts of the gastrointestinal and it home myriads of microorganisms, many of which are useful to the human being. These microorganisms help in the production of many useful products like vitamin B complex, and also some of them helps in the digestion of some of the food materials. The mouth is the opening of the gastrointestinal tract through which food is taken in. Here, the food is mechanically as well as chemically digested. The part of the mechanical and chemical digestion takes place in the mouth. It receives food and also helps to taste the food. And it is the initial mechanical digestion starts here by chewing, and also it helps to swallow the food into the esophagus. The average volume of the adult mouth is around 72 milliliters in men and 55 milliliters in women. The mouth is lined by mucous membranes and consists of two major regions. The mucous membrane lining the mouth is quite important as the saliva produced in the mouth contains different digestive enzymes like salivary amylase, salivary lipase, etc. If this mucous membrane or mucous layer is absent, these enzymes will act on the cells of lining the mouth cavity and kill them. So as I said before, it consists of two major regions. The first region is vestibule, that is outside region, that is the space between the teeth and the cheek. And the oral cavity proper, the space inside the teeth where food is chewed and mixed with the saliva before being swallowed. This is the oral cavity proper. And this oral cavity proper is lined in front by teeth like incisors, canines, premolars, and molars. And the roof of this cavity is made of hard palate, soft palate, uvula, etc. And the floor, you can see the tongue. The soft palate and the hard palate form the roof of the mouth. The soft palate is at the back of the roof, this part. And the hard palate is a bony part of the roof closer to the teeth, this area. The main functions of the soft palate are to aid speech, swallowing, and breathing. With the help of soft palate, the opening to the windpipe can be closed when we are swallowing or chewing the food. Uvula is a conical projection. This conical projection at the back of the soft palate at the middle, composed of connective tissue containing a number of racemose glands and some muscular fibers. It also contains many serous glands which produce thin saliva. It has got major role in keeping the mouth wet. The muscles in uvula shortens and broadens the uvula. This changes the shape of the posterior part of the soft palate. The shape of the posterior part is changed by these muscles. This change in contour, there is a change in the shape, helps to close the nasopharynx during swallowing. This will prevent the food material entering into the larynx. The muscles are controlled by the pharyngeal branch of vagus nerves. The tongue is a muscular structure approximately 10 centimeter long from here to here, 10 centimeter, and weighs about 60 to 70 grams. It is anchored posteriorly to the hyoid bone via small muscles and attached to the floor of the muscle by a thin flap of tissue, the lingual frenulum. This one. Tiny extensions called papillae, these are the small extensions. These papillae make its surface rough texture. So this has an important role in moving the food inside the mouth and also rolling it into the bolus. So it helps to grip food as it is moved around the mouth and mixed with the saliva. These papillae contain taste buds, which harbors or within the taste buds you can see receptors for various chemicals. Taste buds contain gustatory cells that acts as taste receptors. This is a picture of a taste. So we can see that there is a pore, the taste pore, through which the chemicals dissolved in saliva enters into the taste bud. These sensory cells, gustatory receptors, get stimulated and the impulses travel through the nervous system to the nerves to the central nervous system. Taste receptors are activated because by the entry of the chemicals into the taste buds through the taste pore, the taste receptors get activated. Nerves impulses are relayed to the gustatory cortex of the brain, where they are perceived as distinct taste. In humans, there are five primary tastes: salty, bitter, umami, sour, and sweet. Each taste has only one corresponding type of receptor. Each receptor is specific to stimulus. Salty receptors are specific to salty taste, or sweet receptors are specific to sweet. The five tastes are sensed through different mechanisms based on the molecular composition. For example, salty substance contains sodium chloride. It provides sodium ions that enters the taste neurons and excite them directly. You know that how these nerves are stimulated. This is through the movement of sodium and potassium ions through the nerve membrane and causes the depolarization. The map of tongue showing is shown a map here. This is misleading. So before we thought that these taste receptors or particular taste is concentrated in different parts of the tongue, but now we know that these are distributed. There is no regional differences between the taste receptors. Then sour molecules are acids. Binding an acid or other sour tasting molecule triggers change in the ion channel, and this increases hydrogen ion concentrations in the taste neurons. So H plus ion. This also causes a change in the polarity across the nerve membrane and leads to depolarization. Sweet, bitter, and umami tastings require a G protein coupled receptor. I have mentioned the G protein coupled receptors before also. So these molecules bind to their respective receptors, thereby exciting the specialized neuron associated with. Here you can see that the signal molecule, this is the chemicals in the food materials. They come and attach to the receptor. As a result, inactive G protein attached to the receptor will be activated. Here, energy from GTP molecules are used. GTP is converted into GDP, and that energy is used here. And the enzymes, in certain cases, enzymes are involved, or in certain other cases, other coenzymes are involved, or some other materials are involved. So, and the cascade of reaction is resulted, which lead to the response. And taste has much relation. As you become aged, your taste receptors become lesser in number in the tongue. As a result, your capacity or ability to distinguish taste reduces. In humans, the sense decline dramatically after the age of 50. A child may find, for example, a child may find a food to be too spicy, whereas an elderly person may find the same food to be bland and unappetizing. As you are getting older, your ability to taste salt will also decrease. That is why elderly people need more salt in their food to make it tastier. And this is a problem because as you take more sodium chloride, it increases the blood pressure and lead to problems in the kidney functions. Then olfaction and taste, they are interrelated. You know that when you have a flu and your nose is stuffy, you don't feel food tasty. So it is intimately, the taste sensation is intimately related to olfaction, sense of smell. Food cannot be tasted properly if the nose is blocked. As soon as the olfactory apparatus detects the smell of food, the parasympathetic nervous system is activated. Then this activation of the parasympathetic nervous system causes salivary glands to release more saliva. It produces extra saliva, preparing the mouth to receive the food. Retronasal and orthonasal olfaction. Retronasal olfaction, the perception of smell or odors emanating from the oral cavity during eating and drinking. So it is from the mouth. And there is the retronasal olfactory pathway, which contributes to the flavor of foods or drinks, is commonly associated with a sense of taste. These two are associated, also named as gustatory olfaction. So you are feeling the smell of the food material which are present in your mouth, not through the nose. Orthonasal olfaction is nourishing because you are taking in the chemicals through air into your nose, and the receptors in your nose sense the chemicals. So here, retronasal olfaction. So the food reaches the mouth, the taste receptors sense it, and it goes through the nervous system. The nerves, the cauda tympani nerve, as well as glossopharyngeal nerve, it goes to the retronasal pathway to the central nervous system. When the smell is taken into the nose, the chemicals enter the nose through the air. The receptors there are stimulated. It reaches the olfactory bulb, from there to the olfactory tract to cerebral cortex. So these two pathways are used in sensing smell of food material. Taste neurons project from taste cells in the tongue, esophagus, and palate to the medulla in the breast. So the neurons from the taste receptors present in the tongue, esophagus, and palate goes to the medulla in the brainstem. From the medulla, the taste signals travel to the thalamus, then to the primary gustatory cortex. Information from different regions of the tongue is segregated in the medulla, thalamus, and cortex. So that is why we can sense different tastes. So here, the tongue, the receptors in the taste buds. From there, from the anterior part of the tongue is through the seventh vagus nerve, then middle part through the ninth nerve, and from the posterior part by the 10th nerve, it reaches the nucleus tractus at the brain stem. Through then it reaches the thalamus, posterior-ventral nucleus of the thalamus, from the thalamus to the cortical taste area. This is the central taste pathway. Receptors through the 8th, ninth, and 10th vagus nerve to the thalamus, through the brainstem, from the thalamus to the cortical taste area, and the symbols from each of these area or each of these receptors are processed separately. That is why we can taste separate each and every item separate. Then the next part which aid in the digestion, the mechanical digestion, is the dentition. As you all know, adults normally have 32 teeth, which are evenly distributed between the upper and lower jaws. The teeth comprises of 8 incisors. These are the incisors, flat chisel-like teeth. that bite into the food and break it into small manageable pieces. You cut the pieces food into small pieces using these incisors. Then four canines, very sharp, fang-like teeth, just outside the incisors that grip and tear food. In the case of meat-eating animals like dog, you can see very sharp and pointed canines. We don't have that type of pointed canine because we are not basically meat eaters. Then eight premolars, small teeth between the canines and molars. This is slightly flattened teeth. It helps him to grind and cut the food into pieces. And then eight molars, square teeth, more flattened teeth in the square shape, in the rear of the mouth towards the and posterior end of the mouth that grind food to increase its surface area. That is it. Two incisors on each of the jaws. Central incisor, lateral incisor, then canine, first premolar, second premolars, and three molars. One, two, three. So general structure of the teeth, mainly composed of bony material, this the dentine, covered by a layer of white enamel. So then the bony material, very strong material, covered by white enamel is also very strong material. The central portion is the pulp cavity. This cavity is composed of living tissue, mostly blood vessels, this red and blue vessels, and sensory nerve endings. These are these yellow nerves. The teeth, they are used for cutting and grinding. So they keep on, the tearing away process is there. So they are susceptible to erosion as a result of wear and tear, as well as exposure to acidic foods. So when this enamel is worn away or dentine is worn away, you will feel sour taste on the teeth. Mastication is a chewing of food is carried out by the teeth. The tongue moves food towards the premolars and molars. So you take in the food, you cut the food into small pieces, then chewing and grinding happens. The grinding happens at the premolars and molars. So with the help of tongue, you push the food backwards to the premolars and molars. And using these teeth, you grind the food. Sometimes, as you become older, you may lose the teeth. If the teeth are missing, the gums can also chew food, but requires much effort because the gums are not as hard as the teeth. Chewing makes food easier to swallow. This becomes a sort of paste-like, not a fully into paste, but in a smaller pieces, and they are glued together by the saliva and the mucus and forms a bolus. The chewing increases surface area. As you know, as surface area increases, more enzyme molecules can act on these food materials and the digestion can be completed in a speedy way. Salivary glands. The mouth has three pairs of salivary glands. That sublingual glands, that is from the name itself, we can say sub means below, lingual, that is below the tongue. This you see here, sublingual gland. Then submandibular gland, that is below the mandible, located below the mandible, submandibular gland, and parotid gland, located to the side of the earlobes. This earlobe here, to the side of the earlobe. So sublingual, submandibular, and parotid gland, three glands on each side. Salivary glands are innervated. The nerve supply is by the parasympathetic branch of the autonomous nervous system. Salivary glands continuously produce small amount of saliva to keep the mouth moist. That you can feel that you always have a small amount of liquid in your mouth. This is produced by the salivary glands, and this is a basal secretion. In a typical 24-hour period, there will be zero point 0.5 to 1.5 liters of saliva in a day. Eating induces a significant increase in saliva production. And also the smell and thought of certain food also causes a large copious amount of saliva production. For example, if you think about tamarind, your mouth produces a lot of saliva. And also if you're seeing somebody eating food, you produce a saliva. The submandibular glands do most of the basal secretion. That is the secretion when you are not eating. Submandibular gland, that is the gland below the mandible. The parotid glands, that is the gland at the base of the earlobes. That is a major contributors to secretion induced by the presence of food. The sublingual glands only produce a small amount of saliva, that is only 5% of both basal and induced saliva. And you should have seen that this is the smallest of the three glands. The volume of saliva that is produced can be increased or decreased according to the nature of the food. If you are eating a very dry food, your saliva, more saliva need to be produced. Otherwise, your mouth will become dry and you cannot move the food into the inside the mouth, and then it cannot make it into a bolus and swallow it. So more saliva will be produced. And at the same time, if you are taking some liquid drinks, so the saliva production will be lesser. When the swallowing, once the food is made into small pieces by chewing, you need to swallow take the food into the stomach. So you have to swallow it. This happens towards the end of mastication. The tongue and roof of the mouth gather and shape the chewed food into pellet called the bolus. So the roof of the soft and the hard palate helps, along with the tongue, helps to make the food into a small ball, and that ball is called bolus. Then these food materials are held together by the moisture of the saliva and the mucus that keep the food into a bolus. It was pushed towards the back of the mouth and into the oral pharynx with the help of the tongue. Bolus in the posterior pharyngeal wall triggers the swallowing reflex, deglutition, that makes the food to be swallowed in. So the muscular contractions in swallowing involves precisely coordinated muscular contraction. The pharyngeal wall contracts around the bolus. So the contraction of the wall of the pharynx pushes the bolus forward, backwards. The epiglottis closes over the airway opening. The epiglottis will close this opening, preventing food from entering the trachea and bronchial tree. The bolus is then funneled through the upper esophageal sphincter into the esophagus. So this is the upper esophageal sphincter. So the contraction of the pharyngeal wall, push from the tongue, etc., will push the bolus into the esophagus. This upper esophageal sphincter will be opened, and the food will go down through the esophagus by peristaltic movement. So that will be discussed later in the part 2. Thank you.